All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac, joined by my familiar friend, one Adam Scherer. We were doing shows way back in the day when Adam was so good. Some would say he was the bomb, the Adam bomb, and he got to analyze and just had a rotating cast of hosts because, you know, it's Adam. And look at him today. He is now Ship My Money. He is a legend. He's got his trophy, his hardware behind him. He's wearing the jewelry. This is going to be a good show, Adam. How are you feeling? Are you wearing, tell me you're wearing the stripper veteran hat.
Yeah, actually I am.
Oh, okay. How many likes till that gets turned around? 100?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll do that. Excellent. Well, I was trying to remember if I had my matching hat here, and I think I left it downstairs.
Your matching strip club veteran hat?
No, my matching the one you get for being in Onyx if you didn't buy the
the DraftKings one.
Yeah, if you didn't buy or if you didn't claim the barbecue. What the hell am I going to do with the barbecue? I think I have it downstairs from when I was walking the dog. But good times. Well, let's get in here. We've got a lot of fun. We have 6 games, 5 on the DraftKings slate. They're going at 7:20. FanDuel starting at 6:40. We're going to be out of here at 6:25 because we have several shows coming up after us because, hey, it is the NFL. It is Thursday night football with the new sponsor, Amazon. These games apparently are only going to be on Amazon Prime, if I'm understanding correctly. But looking ahead, I would say probably 4 of the first 6 games are pretty good matchups. Then we get deeper into the season. We could see some injuries, but we're not seeing as many of those Jacksonville, Tennessee type games that became quite popular on Thursday Night Football. So that should be fun. We're, of course, brought to you here by BetMGM tonight. They have an offer for you that if you come in through the link that is below us here in the description, you click through that, sign up for an account, you put $10 on the money line for tonight's NFL game, and if either team scores a touchdown, they will pay you out $200. Pretty sure they're going to pay you out the $200 either way, but there's just a little formality teaser that they're putting in there for you. That's always fun. And please do like and subscribe to the video. We are approaching 80,000 subscribers on the channel. That is pretty exciting. All right, Adam, we're going to go over here to FanDuel. Again, this is not on the DK game. This game goes off in 1 hour and 5 minutes. It will be played in Miami, so there's no concern for the weather. You've got Noah Syndergaard on the bump going against Pablo Lopez. 4 implied run total for Philly, 3.6 here for the Marlins. What would you like to do with pitching in this game?
So I think both pitchers are going a little bit under-owned here. Neither one's a huge priority because you do have other pitchers that project a little bit better. But Lopez, I have as the 4th highest projected pitcher on the slate. I have Syndergaard 5th. We have Syndergaard with about a 9.5% chance of being the top scoring pitcher, about 6% ownership. Lopez about a 10% chance of being the top scoring pitcher, 9% ownership. So neither one going crazy under-owned. The matchup is better for Syndergaard, but clearly he's not as good a strikeout pitcher as Lopez is. He's not as good a strikeout pitcher as most people these days. Lopez is one of the better strikeout pitchers on the slate with a 23.6% strikeout percentage. That's actually slightly higher than everybody except for Chase Anderson, who's only appeared in 4 games this year. But he has a relatively difficult matchup against the Phillies, though it is a nice park downgrade for them as well. So I don't anticipate getting tons of either guy in tournaments, but I do think they're both going a little bit under-owned.
All right. And then turning it around towards the offenses, do you see any value in leveraging against either of these pitchers? Again, this is only on the FanDuel slate for those who are watching.
A little bit of interest in the stacks. I mean, Syndergaard typically gives you stolen base upside. He has been better since coming to Philadelphia. Part of that, I think, can be attributed to JT Realmuto, who has an absolute cannon. But also, I am kind of just curious if Philadelphia's fixed something and, kind of told him to get his shit together and maybe not allow every single guy that gets on base to steal. Because I don't think you can, he's been so bad at holding runners throughout his career. I don't think you can attribute it all to JT Realmuto, but still would expect, somebody like John Birdie, if he gets on to steal at the very least. And also just, a pitcher that doesn't miss a lot of bats. Looking at the top stacks tool, I would need to click on FanDuel because this game's not on DraftKings. Miami pulling about 6.5% ownership with about a 7.5% chance of being the top scoring stack. Philadelphia, about a 5% chance of being the top scoring stack at 7% ownership. So Miami actually getting a little bit less ownership here in the better matchup makes them somewhat interesting to me.
All right. that takes care of the first game. Now we're going back to the joint schedule. 5 more games here, most of them still going off in the 7 o'clock hour, but DraftKings electing to eschew the first game and go with a 7:20 start tonight. Let's see, what would we like to talk about here? Ooh, we do have the MLB night slate tools and information is 100% free for DraftKings. That is going to be for the remainder of the season. I know all eyes are going to be on Thursday night football and you're not going to be playing baseball, but just know that is available to you. There will be a larger evening slate tomorrow night. You can go to the link that says DK Night Owl below us, and you can get a free preview of all the tools and projections for the late games. Again, you probably want to do that tomorrow night. But what you can do now is you can sign up using the promo code MLB Alive. That's all caps, one word, MLB Live, for 50% off any weekly package if you are a new subscriber to to Stokastic. Oops. At least I didn't say Fanvice. There we go.
That's true. That's been a while.
A major throwback. Major throwback. All right, on to our next games here. We have Lance McCullers going against Houston. McCullers, of course, should be quite popular tonight. He is your safest option for those of you dabbling in cash. Essentially, will be his 5th start. Remember, he hurt his arm in the playoffs last year, so he spent quite a bit of time rehabilitating that. But he's actually been very, very good in the 5 games that he has played. 28 2/3 innings with a 2.20 ERA, a 1.33 whip, 26 strikeouts, and he has thrown 97 and 105 pitches in his last 2 starts. So we feel pretty comfortable with him going against Oakland. On the other side for Oakland, bit of a disaster here for James Kaprielian. He has, same-handed hitters have really gotten to him. Last 231 he's faced, he has a 358 WOBA, 231 ISO with just a 15.9% strikeout rate. So we're going all Astros all the time here. I'm sure Adam may talk about a leverage opportunity here and there for some of the Athletics hitters. Start us off with Houston, Adam, and how much Lance McCullers are you getting to tonight? The byproduct of just 10 pitchers on DraftKings Player Pool.
Yeah, so I, for what it's worth, I haven't crunched DraftKings yet. I just finished up FanDuel, so for once I'll actually have a better answer for there. But stack-wise, I think Houston looks good. It's really just going to be a matter of how easily you're able to get to them. But we have them projected for about 15% ownership with about a 15% chance of being the top stack. On FanDuel, I think similarly, they are one of the higher owned stacks, but also one of the highest chances of success. 19% ownership there, 14% chance of being the top stack. So a little bit more over-owned on FanDuel than on DraftKings, but certainly a good spot against Kaprielian, just a pitcher that really isn't very good. 180 expected ISO to righties this year with only an 18% strikeout percentage. 155 expected ISO to lefties with just shy of a 14% strikeout percentage. You're going to get tons of right-handed power in this lineup, and then 2 really, really good lefties in Alvarez and Tucker. Daily reminder that Trey Mancini is hitting in a ballpark that is built for where he hits fly balls. You get a catcher upgrade in this lineup with Christian Vasquez in place of Martin Maldonado. Vasquez, the better offensive option of the 2. So that makes this lineup a little bit deeper as well. This is, I think, one of the better Houston lineups that you could get right now from an offensive standpoint. So I do like them in tournaments quite a bit. Just certainly, pay attention to the ownership there.
So, and sorry, I just refreshed. I had the old lineup up that had the projected one that had Jose Altuve in it. So you've got Aledmys Diaz up there batting second. Nice little upgrade there for him. And then you've got, let's see, he's 3,800. Was on the FanDuel side. He's at the even 2K min there. He does pretty decent in righty-righty matchups. I remember if I looked at him this morning over the last 2 years, he's got about a 160 isolated power against same-handed pitchers. So that was, I thought he was worth mentioning when I figured he was going to hit 6th or 7th. Now that he's batting second, that looks pretty good. We're going to see some teams giving their players days off here and there down the stretch. Houston's been doing it for quite some time, so no surprise there. Alvarez was out yesterday. The day before, he did hit a home run. He's been dealing with a sore hand, so he may get days off here and there. Of course, they've got their eye on the postseason, so that just know that they'll probably be rotating through the various key players there. If you look at the Oakland side, they now at least have Ramon Laureano is back, which upgrades their lineup somewhat. The rest of it, well, it's the same old cast of characters. It's Sean Murphy, Seth Brown. Those are the main guys we're going to here. How do you want to approach the leverage or flipping the script going against all of the McCullers backers? Because boy, it worked for some people last night going against David Peterson with the Cubs.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that there is some upside here because McCullers' strikeout numbers are down since coming back, only a 21.7% strikeout percentage. He's still walking guys at a 12.5% clip. He's always been a volatile pitcher, mostly just because his pitch count can get up there as a result of strikeouts and walks. Typically, he's not someone that really gets blown up, but you are talking about somebody in his sixth start back from injury. So I think there is some volatility here. But I don't really like the lineup that Oakland's running out there. So far this year, and it's a limited sample, but McCullers has actually struck out 29% of lefties with a sub 100 expected ISO, only a 14% strikeout percentage against righties with a 178 expected ISO. And while typically you need a pretty good reason to buy into reverse splits, and I don't think they'll be as drastic as they have been so far, he pretty much doesn't throw his best pitch to right-handed hitters. So that's why you see a drop in strikeout percentage. He throws the sinker a lot, doesn't throw his knuckle curve. And I think that is why you're seeing him get hit a little bit harder. I had more interest in Oakland this morning when I was expecting that you'd get Langoliers in the lineup, and maybe you would get like another right-handed bat in there somewhere. I think Laureano looks okay. I think Murphy and Garcia look okay, but not that I was ever going to love Oakland here, but I like them even a little bit less because they seem to have chosen to just play any lefties they could at the expense of getting actual talented hitters into their lineup.
Yeah, it's sort of like the organizational game plan is still to go with the platoon advantage. They're not built for that anymore at this point. So unfortunately for them. Any other interesting tidbits you want to cover for this game?
I'll throw it out there because I just updated everything on FanDuel. So this, for me, at least right now on FanDuel, is a slate where I'm spreading it out at pitcher a lot. And then at least at the moment with current ownership and everything, pretty concentrated on bats. And Houston's one of the teams that I really am getting a lot of, even at their ownership on FanDuel.
All right, let's continue on here to our next game. And we have Pittsburgh going in against the Mets. You have JT Brubaker facing a much improved, at least for this season, Mets team. On the other side, you have Carlos Carrasco. He's been dealing with various injuries, but he looks like a reasonable option. Yes, it doesn't feel great with the $9,400 price tag there on DraftKings. However, there's enough $2,000 hitters that it seems like DraftKings has softened up a lot of the pitching pricing, hitter pricing, and in turn just increased their pitcher. So it's net, no change. Do you like Carrasco tonight on the two pitcher site? Is he I get our numbers up here. What do you think about 35% of your lineups?
Yeah, I like Carrasco, especially on DraftKings, where we have him with basically the same chances of being a top two pitcher as McCullers. And actually, the ownership did get a little bit closer in the most recent update. But we still have McCullers at like 60%. We have Carrasco at 52%. Carrasco and McCullers both with about a 35% chance of being a top two pitcher. They both have really good matchups. Carrasco's in his third start back, went 75 or 76 pitches, somewhere in there his last time out. I'm expecting him to be around 90 pitches tonight. He struck out 23.3% of hitters this year, which is higher than McCullers so far. It's lower than where McCullers typically is. 3.47 xFIP is solid. So I don't think there should be much of an ownership gap between these two. I think they project pretty similarly. They're priced pretty similarly. And so I like both guys, but if Carrasco is going to get a little bit less ownership, then I am interested in that. But one way or the other, I like both McCullers and Carrasco. Yep,
you're right. He did come up in the popularity, Carrasco, that is. We now have McCullers at 60%, Carrasco at 52%, Miles Michaelis at 41%, and then looks like a smattering of Manaea, Brubaker, and then the Scrub-a-Dubs there. Turning it to the offense, we've seen JT Brubaker have some moments of being a decent pitcher. He's definitely what I would say. He's a major league pitcher. He's probably about a number 4 starter. Doesn't quite have the strikeout stuff. His control tends to leave him from time to time. But guess what? That's what happens with back end of the rotation starters. He is going against a good Mets lineup. We've liked them all season. They feel like they've sort of let us down a little bit lately, but that was a lot of their pitching getting knocked around there by the Cubbies. Who do you want to call out here for the Mets? They look like probably the number 3 stack. eyeballing
Yeah,
it
and I
quickly.
mean they are relatively expensive, and Brubaker's a pretty solid pitcher. He has had more issues with left-handed power than right-handed power, though. It's not a good park either, so that's working against them. But a 177 expected ISO and 208 actual ISO to lefties this year, compared to a 131 expected ISO and 123 actual ISO to righties. So I think Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil, Vogelbach. Obviously, Alonso is always good, but those are the guys that really stand out 1 through 5. But you have the 4 lefties up there as well.
All right. Going against Carrasco, nothing wrong with that, especially now that he is officially the second most popular pitcher there on DraftKings. Who would be your preferred options here? Price really doesn't matter. Obviously, O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds up near the top. Rodolfo Castro has been looking interesting in some of his games. You've got Ben Gamel locked into the number 4 hole for some reason. Oh, that's because Pittsburgh doesn't care. He's incredibly cheap right now. Talk to us about the Pirates. Any weaknesses you'd like to exploit there against Carrasco?
I actually really like the lineup the Pirates are running out there. Obviously, with the caveat that it's still the Pirates, but Carrasco also has had more issues with left-handed power this year. 203 expected ISO, 172 actual ISO, and the Pirates are taking advantage of that. You have O'Neal Cruz leading off. Looks like a good shortstop option. Brian Reynolds is a legitimately good hitter. Rodolfo Castro's got some power, cheap price tag, multi-position eligibility. Gamble is whatever. Cal Mitchell's 2K flat, so don't mind that. I wish Sawinski were hitting higher in the order, but he's another left-handed bat that has some power. So by Pirate standards, I think this is about as good as the lineup gets.
All right. Reddit as a news source. Intriguing.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Gonna pass on that one. I've had plenty of success without ever opening Reddit.
Yes, that could be a little tough. Isn't that where Q spawned from? Well,
I have no idea.
4chan. Maybe we'll go from Reddit to 4chan. I gotta update my 4chan. Tyler doesn't realize I actually was Q. So just throwing that out there. It was a lot of fun these last few years. Anything else from this matchup?
No, just I think given the lineups, if I'm gonna take a team against either Carrasco or McCullers, I think I actually like the Pirates a little bit more.
All right. I see Achilles is in there. Says Fan Vice in the house. Where's DC and Laffy?
Yeah.
Those were fun times. On to our next game here. Kansas City Royals going against the Twins. A little warmer here. The last game was going to be in the low 70s in New York. Going to be in the low 80s here for Minnesota. You've got Daniel Lynch going against Dylan Bundy. Let's see. I think, Adam, is according to the shows I've watched, you will be getting a lot of Royals no matter what tonight. Is that going to be the case?
That's how it normally works. I'm not quite as sure tonight. I know I'm not getting much on FanDuel. I'm not sure as much on DraftKings either, just because one of the reasons I typically get there is that not only do they have multi-position eligibility with Melendez and Witt, and then a lot of value from Pasquantino down, but also they typically just don't get that much ownership. So it's the combination of everything that helps me get there. But tonight they're getting plenty of ownership, and I think they should. I mean, Dylan Bundy's not a particularly good pitcher, and they do still have Melendez, Witt, Perez all at the top of the order, relatively expensive, but also high upside guys. Pasquantino wildly underpriced at 2,200. Nick Pratto hitting 7th, top 100 prospect. Massey's cheap, hitting 5th. So it's still a pretty solid lineup in a good matchup. I understand why they're getting the ownership, but I do think there's spots that I'll get to before I get to them just because of that.
All righty. For those of you tuning in, yes, we're having some fun in the chat. It's always fun to joke around. It's the merits of news sources. Well, I mean, it was reported. A lot of things have been reported there, getting back to the Mets, but one never knows. Everybody has a platform at this point. You know who also has a platform? That would be Stokastic. We don't do just shows here on YouTube. We also have many fantastic tools behind the scenes that we utilize constantly. You can get in on those tools for football. Special deal, 3 days for free. Okay, wow, that seems pretty good. So you'll definitely want to check out that. You can get the ownership projections, the boom bust tool, the top stacks tool, all the good stuff for the NFL. That's free there. You do have to sign up, but you'll want to check that out. As always, Fantasy Cruncher is a separate add-on. You can add it to any subscription we have. It is a pass-through cost to them. We host them on our site, and when you get the version from us, it does automatically upload with projections and other stochastic information. Dylan Bundy, Adam, can we wring anything out from him? You've followed him from in his Baltimore days for quite some time. Is this a moment where he can rise up to the challenge of producing fantasy points?
I mean, probably not, but pitching on this slate's pretty weak, so I'm kind of interested. We only have him projected for 2% ownership. Right now we have him projected, that's FanDuel. Right now we have him projected on DraftKings for like 11 DraftKings points, which sucks, but it's 2 points behind JT Brubaker, who we have projected for 12% ownership. It's not far behind Lynch, who we have at 10%. So I think he's going under owned. I don't think he's any sort of a huge priority here, though.
All right, I found my hat. I forgot it is here. See, Adam, look, just for you. Put on my my DraftKings hat. I feel like a baller. Change my DraftKings username to Ship My Money Part 2.
Yeah, I have that one as well.
It's gonna be good. All righty, we've got God, this would be a great time to go against Lynch here. It's unfortunate there's, 3 hitters that draw our attention, 2 more that get close. It's going to be the 5 righties at the top here. Carlos Correa, of course, very good. Jose Miranda, also very good with the platoon advantage. Gio Urshela, well, he's Gio Urshela. And then Gary Sanchez, marginal. Kyle Garlick, reasonable as well. Would you go with the full 4 or 5-man stack, or does this feel more like 2-mans and one-offs for you?
No, I think it's fine getting to them. There's several teams pulling ownership today, and Minnesota's one of them, but they just grade out as a really good value as well. So you're going to get them at similar ownership to a lot of these other teams, but you're likely to be able to build better lineups around them than you are with the other teams. So that makes me like them a bit. And like they're another example where they're getting more ownership than Kansas City, but it's not by a really wide margin. And we have them, with a 13% chance of being the top stack compared to like 8.5%. So I actually think I like Minnesota a little bit more than KC. I think there's a good chance I'll get there, particularly on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I'm not really getting there. They are one of the popular teams I'm not getting to, but I like the spot here. I don't think Daniel Lynch is terrible, and I don't think the park is great, but it is a relatively difficult spot for him, and you do have cheap power here with Garlick, Miranda, Urshela, Sanchez, Correa, not cheap, but still a really good option. And if you're stacking, don't sleep on Nick Gordon. He has been hitting the ball hard all season long, and Daniel Lynch really hasn't been lights out against lefties either. So I think that's one way you can differentiate within your stack.
All right, I see. So Tex bringing his toxic attitude, so toxic. It's his real username, saying that I should be Ship My Centrum. All right, my wife had the best laugh when she was able to buy me with the multivitamin for men 50 and over. It's like Centrum Silver, and because she's younger than I am, and she's just like made so much fun of that. That hurt me. It left a mark.
Oh, I'm glad you explained what it was, because I had no idea.
Yeah, Adam doesn't need vitamins. He has an immune system built up by hours and hours every week from the champagne room. Nothing gets Adam down. Nothing.
Yeah, that in the casino, and you're good to go.
Couple beers for breakfast, you're going here, Adam. Adam's never sick. He just has allergies. That's all, just allergies. Let's see here. We have nothing really else from this game. We still have 2 to go. We're making good time. Of course, we're going to get out of here around 6:20, 6:25, because we do have many shows coming up after us. The many would be 2 and a secret show number 3. But we, of course, have the NFL Deeper Dive for Thursday Night Football coming up here at 6:30. For that one, you are going to get Greg and Neil breaking down the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego, just for you, T. McBee, just for you. The Los Angeles Chargers going into Kansas City. And then you are also getting Live Before Lock, taking you up to kickoff. That is going to be with Eric Lindquist and Matt Savoca. Simultaneously over on the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, you'll get Nick Alepri doing start-sit questions and anything else you want to ask him there. That's going to be from 7 to, I think, 7:30. And then we're doing another watch party. There'll be more information about that during the NFL show, but that's kind of fun. It's going to be Eitan Chandler with several guests dropping by. It's a lot of fun. Oh, well, maybe we should change the run sheet to cover these things, Tyler. Yeah, that would be a good one. That would be, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? On-air production meeting. Joey Corman, I gave you the run sheet. Could have told me to pull that one out. All right, Adam, we're going to recover here because we've got Cincinnati, one of the worst offenses in the league, going against Miles Mikolas. I love to pick on Cincinnati. You get a kind of doubling down here. You get a horrible offense, horrible pitcher. Feels good for the win for Sir Miles here. However, 3 of his last 4 games, going 16 innings against Pittsburgh, Chicago, in Chicago against the Cubs, and then against tonight's opponent, Cincinnati, he did allow 13 runs in 16 innings. However, on the season, outstanding for him. A 3.4 ERA, 1.04 WHIP. Only 3 times this year has the team scored more than 3 runs on him. He's an interesting guy on FanDuel because of the quality start. Strikeouts, well, he gets about 7 per 9. That's not great. Perhaps he can coax a few more out of a depleted Cincinnati lineup. Give us a few words on the pitcher here.
He's actually my highest owned guy on FanDuel, or highest owned pitcher. Not by a wide margin, but I like the lack of ownership he's getting there because the strikeouts aren't as much of a concern on this slate. Like I mentioned earlier, Pablo Lopez, 23.5% strikeout percentage, Minaya, 23.5%, Carrasco, 23.3%. There's just no elite strikeout pitchers on this slate. So even though Mikolas is still behind those guys, it's easier for him to make up that sort of a gap than it is for him to make it up when you have, Spencer Strider or Garrett Cole or DeGrom or somebody, and you would basically have to get like 12 innings out of Mikolas for him to match 6 innings from those guys. That's not the case here. And then on top of that, you do get a favorable matchup against the Reds, 2.8 implied run total. And then also, it's not just strikeouts. Carrasco and McCullers both are good, but neither one, it's not shocking if either one just has a pedestrian performance. So I just think there's a lot more ways for Mikolas to get there on this slate than normal. Normally, he's somebody that kind of grades out as like a good or a decent point per dollar value, but it really takes a lot of imagination to figure out how he's going to be like the highest scorer on a slate. I don't think it's that difficult tonight for him to get there. I do like the matchup. And then the same thing goes on DraftKings, where he's getting a lot more ownership because it's a 2-pitcher site, but he is still getting less than McCullers and Carrasco, basically getting 2/3 the ownership of McCullers, a bit more than that compared to Carrasco, but still less. So I don't think there's a big difference in projections. We have Mikolas about 2 points behind Carrasco, 2.5 behind McCullers. So I do like him in tournaments. Probably a little bit more on FanDuel just because the 1-pitcher site drives that ownership down even more. But either way, I have more interest in Mikolas tonight than I normally do.
Yeah, and this is one that when I wrote him up, free article every day, spotlight pitchers and top stacks. He was my secondary option. Of course, we're going to put Lance McCullers first there, but I liked Mikolas second there just because the price tag, people are like, oh, I don't want to pay for this guy. It's like, it doesn't matter that much tonight. We have 3.5 reasonable pitching options. We can roll the dice with 2 or 3 more. And then we've got Bupkis. We're going to be taking chances, especially on DraftKings. And with so many players under $2,700, this expensive pitcher is really not that expensive. He'd still be the same if he was $7,900 and most of those cheap hitters were $3,400. It just works out that way. So this is one where, DraftKings does this a lot of times towards the end of the year. They do it frequently throughout the NFL season. They either, goose or their premium guys and leave a bunch of cheapies there that you can grab, or they bring them down and increase the cheapies. It's just a different puzzle. If you're playing every day, you'll notice this. You'll see these things. You can work it out to your advantage, because if people are distracted by, I don't know, an awesome Thursday night football game tonight, and they're still playing because they can't help themselves, like all of us, it's not an addiction, it's a dedication. But if they're making lineups, but they're not really engaged, they're not looking at matchups like this. That could be a mistake. So that is where hopefully we can take advantage of that. Chase Anderson, the one nice thing I can say about him, we'll have to see where his, I'll call up Odd Shopper here, but I did like earlier today when I wrote my article, you could get a 2.5 over under on his strikeout prop. I suspect that went up throughout the day, but I'll double check that. That's about the only thing I'm hoping for from him. I figure he can probably go, he went like 85 or 86 pitches in his last start. If he goes 75, 80 pitches tonight, well, maybe he can cobble together the 3 we needed for that early placement of that wager. Otherwise, he's been just a disaster, Adam. Appeared in just 28 games over the last 3 years. In these outings, he's pitched 90.2 or 90 and 2/3 innings, the 7.2 ERA, 1.6 WHIP, and allowed 2.4 home runs per 9 inning. All bad numbers. His strikeout rate closer to 8, but that's again spread over 3 years, smallish sample size of 90 innings. I want no part of him, even as an SP2. Do you back that stand? And who do you want to target him with?
Yeah, I back that. I mean, it's also a really tough matchup against the Cardinals. So while through 4 appearances this year, he does have a 31.4% strikeout percentage, or in 3 starts, a 31.4% strikeout percentage. He's also walked 22.9% of guys. He's allowed 2.25 home runs per 9. The numbers are just kind of small sample size across the board. And we have a long track record of him. But even if there was something that made me believe that suddenly Chase Anderson was going to be a good pitcher, I don't think the Cardinals is the spot where I'd be looking to attack it anyway. Just a really tough lineup to strike out, plenty of power. Throughout his career, or at least recently, in a lot of recent seasons, he's been a reverse splits guy as well. So the fact that, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Pujols, O'Neill all hit from the right side, that doesn't concern me at all if you're talking about getting to the Cardinals. Donovan and Edman hitting 1-2. Edman's priced up to 5,400, but you do get some value with Donovan. There is some pinch hit risk later in the game, but I really like the Cardinals here.
So are they just, what happened to Lars Nootbaar? Why is he banished to batting ninth? He was a literal god there for a while. Do they just want to keep him under wraps as they head towards the postseason? Is that what's going on?
You would think
here?
They would show him off, so maybe they can trade him to the Yankees for another ace.
Oh, that's shots fired. Gundacker, T. McBee, I know you're watching. Those were from Adam to you. It was like he was blowing a little kiss your direction.
To be fair, I don't know if the Yankees even have another ace.
Oh, doubling down. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. That's like Adam saying, another round, bartender, on me. Oh boy. All right. So Albert Pujols, I bet we see a lot of him in this series. 4 days, 5 games against Cincinnati. Not much good pitching as he makes his way towards home run plateaus there. I believe he's closing in on 7, or I know he's closing in on 700, but I bet we see him a few times in this series. The bottom of the lineup, as Adam mentioned, kind of, a little slightly watered down, but again, they're just going to roll through and give some people some days off because they have the doubleheader on Saturday. If you look towards the other side, anybody here make you nervous? Who would you take against Michaelis here? You've got Jake Fraley. I believe he left the game early, but he is back in the lineup tonight batting cleanup. You've got Kyle Farmer, Jonathan India. Those guys are all okay. TJ Friedel can be a little pesky, but Michaelis does a good job of limiting power. Aristides Aquino, the limiting power versus the not striking out many people, advantage Michaelis still, but he's worth a mention. Is this just, I know you don't set cap limits, but this feels more like if you were doing something strategically, this feels like 2 or 3 Cincinnati Reds max, probably.
I mean, I think they're going on their own, so I don't mind mixing them in. I mean, it's still a short slate, especially on DraftKings where there's only 5 games. It's going to be difficult to make contrarian lineups that you do feel good about. I think that the Reds are going a little bit under-owned. You mentioned Aquino. He's the guy that I would single out individually. Like you said, it's still advantage Michaelis because he is good at limiting contact or limiting power. But he has a lot of 167 expected ISO to righties this year. That's not nothing. Aquino, they were talking about him on a Reds broadcast, changing his approach a little bit, changing something he was doing with his front foot. I have no idea if that leads to sustained success or not. But even if you take the Aristides Aquino we've seen for a few years, he's either striking out or he's hitting the ball really hard. And he's facing a pitcher that's going to allow him to hit the ball most likely. So at minimum salary, I do like the idea of just kind of trying to catch a home run there. Spencer Steer, I have no idea why this guy is hitting 8th on this team, but he projects to be an actual above average major league hitter as well. He's somebody, since he is hitting 8th, I doubt it's going to get much ownership. Fraley's fine. Friedel's fine. It's not a good team, and I still prefer the Pirates lineup to theirs, but there's at least guys that I don't hate.
All right. Anything else to cover from this game?
No.
Okay, we're going to have time for a little questions, but I did go on over there to Odd Shopper, the Osmo sister site. You can get, or Osmo, I'm doing this for Adam. I'm going to bring Fanvice is going to be the next thing that I say. The Odd Shopper is the Stokastic sister site here. It's easy to make bets. You just go on over there, Odd Shopper, two S's in the middle there. And all I had to do is log in, Wait, is it a pay site? No, you just put your email in there and then you can get access to all of the stochastic projections for free, as well as the sharp betting lines that give you implied value of where the overs and unders ought to be for various player props and team props. So the nice thing is, I went over here, just did a quick search on Chase Anderson in the search bar, it pops up. He still has a 2.5 over on his strikeout. You can get that over at one of the casinos there, or one of the sports books there that's not sponsoring our show tonight, but you can, we're still projecting him for 3.5 strikeouts. It's a way to get a little bit of an edge there. 61% win percentage, 21% expected ROI, not too shabby at all. We just need him to get around 70 pitches and he should be able to get 3 strikeouts, which is all we need to get the win if that number still hangs there. You can also get your bet in over on MGM, going through the link that is below us in the description. And when you click through that, make a $10 wager onto the money line of tonight's NFL game. If either team scores a touchdown, they're going to pay you out $200 plus whatever you win if you win on the money line wager. Adam, are we ready for our final game? I do not believe we have lineups yet for San Diego at Arizona, but you've got Sean Manaea going against Dre Jameson, who will be making his debut. Did you poke around and look at anything on Jameson today?
Yeah, he's a top 100 prospect. Didn't put up good numbers at AAA this year. Did make 21 starts and throw like 114 innings. So at worst, he's a 4K guy in a bad matchup, but fully stretched out. In recent starts at AAA, even in starts where he went 5 innings, he was facing like 27 batters, which is a lot. And you don't want to read too much into those AAA numbers because they're AAA squads in Reno, which is one of the worst places to pitch individually in all of the minor leagues. And then also it's in the worst league to pitch in the minor leagues. So kind of like we've seen with Ryan Nelson, like not to say that, Nelson's going to sustain the level of success he's had through his first couple of starts, but I think there's a decent chance that you actually get better major league numbers from Jameson than you were getting at AAA. Yeah, the competition's better, but like literally pitching on the moon in a lot of those parks. So it's basically playing every game in Coors Field, playing in that league. So strikeout numbers were down there, but he struck out 32% at AA. He was down to 21.5% at AAA. There is talent here. He's a former compensation pick, I think, like 34th overall. Throws mid to upper 90s. Has 3+ average to plus pitches as secondaries. Should be a pretty solid pitcher. Has a really difficult matchup here against the Padres, but I really don't hate the idea of him at 4K. I don't really know how far those savings go on this particular slate, especially if you're not using it to get to like Manny Machado. But I do think that he just doesn't project that far behind mid-range guys. Like he's 4K. We have him projected for 9.7 DraftKings points. Dylan Bundy is basically a point ahead of that and $3,100 more. Lynch is $2,700 more and like 2 points ahead of that. So if you need the value, I don't mind just rolling the dice on him and hoping that, kind of assuming that he's not going to do very well, but there's a good chance that the mid-range pitchers don't either. The thing that'll probably keep me from getting too much of him, though, is that I just don't really know what I'd be doing with the salary.
Well, not being a jerk, you wouldn't be spending it, but you would actually be buying yourself maybe some unique lineups, and that's something to consider on DraftKings.
Yeah, but the issue you run into there is that I guess he could just score a lot of points. It's just so much more likely for him to be like a winning DFS pitcher. It's a lot more likely that you just get like 10 to 12 points from him, and then all of Bundy and those guys get 10 points or something, and you win it with expensive stacks. But the expensive stacks aren't really that difficult to get to, and there's not that many of them.
There's not a Coors Field. There's not a Yankees against a crappy pitcher.
And yeah, to your point, like it is going to make your lineups unique, but like being unique in
baseball isn't that
difficult anyway.
Yeah. All fair points. I do want to mention that his last 5 starts in the minors, he had 97 or more pitches 3 times. He has thrown 100 pitches twice this season. He's fully stretched out. We know major league debuts, kind of stressor pitches, kind of under the lights a lot. I think looking at something if he's going well, 75, 80 pitches would be great and perfectly acceptable.
I think he can go further than that if he's pitching well.
Yeah. Well, the higher probability would be the likelihood of it being his first start. And
there's also like, would they even let him go through the lineup a third time in his first start?
Yes. just all those fun things. But yes, the point is they're not going to, if he's getting yanked early, it's because the Padres are kicking his ass.
Right.
That's the easier way to say it here. If the Padres are going to be kicking his ass, it's what? Going to be Soto, Machado, Josh Bell. Hey, both of us have former franchise players on this team.
Yeah, we do.
I'm switching back to them. I never left the Mariners, but at least they now have a franchise player, because the Nationals certainly don't, as I'm wearing a National shirt that's going to spontaneously combust here. Aside from that trio in the middle, would you expand things out there to a Jerks, a Profar, a Jake Cronenworth, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get to pretty much all of these guys. Cronenworth would be the one that you didn't mention that I really want to get to. I think that price tag really stands out. 3,800 second base on DraftKings. I think he's on the short list of cash second basemen as well. But it's kind of a situation where I think Jameson's good enough where, obviously Machado and Soto, even if he is good, he can have a great start and have trouble with those guys. But when you talk about Profar, Myers, Grissom, Kim, all these guys are good enough that if Jameson's just out there pitching like a guy making his major league debut, they're going to have success. It's not like this is a lineup where outside of Soto, Machado, Bell, Cronenworth, you're getting bad hitters. You're getting a drop off because those guys are so good. But it's just a lineup where if Jameson's not on top of his game, you're going to want bits and pieces of all of it.
All right. Turning over to, you haven't mentioned anything on Manaea yet, right?
No, I did want to mention with the Padres, though. I don't think I'm quite as high on them as the top stacks tool here. I think I have a little bit more respect for Jameson. I'm not saying I don't like the Padres, but I do think, and I am getting to them a ton on FanDuel. On DraftKings, though, I think there's a good chance that maybe I get to the Cardinals a little bit more at lower ownership and Houston a little bit more at lower ownership.
All right, we got about 400 watching. Let's get to 100 likes. Let's see the other side of Adam's hat here. So with Manaea, those of you wondering, they planned on not starting him against the Dodgers. He ended up pitching one inning in relief, so that was sort of a rest down the stretch. We don't want you to get your ass kicked by the Dodgers. Things have gone a little rough for you in the preceding two starts when you gave up 6 earned runs and 8 against the Dodgers, which included 3 home runs. So this is hopefully a get right spot for him. How are you feeling about Manaea as we start to wind things down? And hit that like button. Let's see Adam's hat.
I mean, I'm not feeling very good about him, but I do think that his ownership and his salary mitigate a lot of the concerns. He's just not been very good recently. But over the course of the season, he still has 23.5% strikeout percentage is the highest on DraftKings, with the exception of Chase Anderson's fake one. 3.95 xFIP. I don't really like the matchup here. I've talked about it a lot. The Diamondbacks have called up a couple of big-time prospects, and it's just made this lineup deeper. They're relatively difficult to strike out. It's probably going to be very right-handed heavy. So I don't think it's a safe spot. But what does look good to me, in addition to the $7,600 price tag, is that he's only getting 16% ownership. We have him with a 22% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on DraftKings. By comparison, we have Michaelis at 28%. So you're talking about Manaea being 75%-ish of the top 2 chances of Michaelis, but then getting 1/3 the ownership. So I think it's a spot where Manaea is going a little bit under-owned, even though there are legitimate risks here. And I really don't mind getting to the Diamondbacks as a result, because Kelly, Marte, Walker, Rivera, Garrett, these guys all can do damage from the right side. And Manaea has had plenty of issues with right-handed bats this year. 191 expected ISO, 223 actual ISO. He has struck out 25% of them. I just think this is a pretty high upside spot on both sides, and neither side is getting all that much ownership.
All righty, we've got we just need one more like here on our quest for 100, so do that. We're gonna do a little roundabout here. Have you done your crunch here for DK yet?
No, I haven't even started.
All right, let's talk FanDuel then, just briefly. What came out in your crunch that you'd like to impart to people? That slate starts at 6:40, so don't get distracted. That's just 24 minutes away.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was actually in the middle of updating ownership so that I had
that was also a subliminal message for Adam to not get distracted, because he easily could once he turns his attentions to DraftKings if he hasn't uploaded his FanDuel.
Yeah, so let me just change that.
All right. While you're
Yeah,
focusing on that, I do want to remind you guys, coming up at the bottom of the hour here at 6:30, you're going to get the NFL deeper dive. That is going to be with Greg and Neil Orfield. And then you will get a live before lock with Lindquist and Savoca taking you up to kickoff. You're going to want to use that Amazon Prime subscription tonight. This is the first Thursday night game over there. Should be a real fun one here. Looks like a potential track meet. These teams traded haymakers last year. I believe they each lost at home against their respective opponents. So it should be a lot of fun. Did you get your stuff?
No, because I'm going to have to swap Dalton Varsho out, but he's not in ownership anymore, so I have to fix it.
All right. So we'll look at DK here, since that's what I've got up. So your top pitchers that you're going to be looking at tonight are, of course, going to be Lance McCullers. You kind of have a tie there between Carlos Correa and Miles Michaelis. That one, I lean towards Michaelis. When their ownership, it's about 10, they're within 10% of each other. That could easily flip, but those are the top three. Manaea coming in at 16%, and everybody falling below him. If we look at the top stacks, of course, Houston going to be quite popular in those. You have some value there. Let me see. We've got a lot of fun dials here. So our top value is going to be Minnesota with those cheap prices there on DraftKings, followed by Oakland. Oakland coming in underrepresented. Of course, they're going against Lance McCullers. So, of course, with him on 60% of lineups, it makes sense that the Oakland Athletics are going to be somewhat underrepresented there. You do have, let's see here, where's Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh looking like a 3% chance of a top stack, but you are getting positive leverage for them going against Carlos Carrasco. I do not mind taking a few dart throws in that general direction. And then if we sort on, we've got some new categories here, the top overall stack score. This takes into account the value, the percentage, the popularity, what's going on with the pitcher, leverage, all that fun stuff. You've got Minnesota and San Diego popping here up at the top. They're both clear-cut runaways. Then it's St. Louis, and then everybody starts to flatten out after those three teams. So a lot of different ways we can look at baseball, especially with it being such an event-driven sport with low probabilities of success.
Yeah, so FanDuel, the way it is right now, I'm way over on the Padres. I'm over on Houston, over on Philly, Pittsburgh, and Oakland. The teams that are getting ownership that I am not getting to is mostly Minnesota. The Mets, I don't have much either, and they're getting some ownership. Pitcher-wise, McCullers is my highest owned guy now, not by much. Michaelis is second. And then a little bit of Carrasco, Lopez, Syndergaard.
All right, we did make it over 100 likes. Would you like to turn your hat around?
Yeah, sure.
Tell a little story about this one.
Yeah, shout out Jordan Klein for the hat.
This is the strip club veteran hat. This is a classic here. This is a classic. Adam earned hard-earned awards, hard-earned merit badges, as they like to say there, both with the credit card and, well, we'll just leave the rest to your imagination. Final thoughts, Adam, if you had to call a random home run of the night, who would that be?
Cal Raleig's not playing, so I don't know.
That was one of the best moments ever when you had Cal Riley as your player. Let me see. Who did I put?
Give me I'll take Reynolds.
Reynolds. All right. I think that's pretty fair. I didn't really have any. I guess Josh Bell would be my least popular one that I called out in my article today from there. So that is going to do it for us today. We want to remind everybody that you can get in on the BetMGM promo. All you got to do is click through the link that is below us in the description here, create your account, and you'll be able to put in a $10 wager tonight on the NFL money line for Thursday Night Football. If either team scores a touchdown, they're going to give you $200. kind of think they're going to give you $200, even if that doesn't occur tonight. And then you can still get your money line wager as well. It's a great way to fill up those coffers and start to dabble as we head into week 2 for the NFL. You can follow Adam on Twitter at Ship My Money DFS. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stokastic _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.